good, y'all? It's your boy King Cow 516 live in the mix, and this is the Swiss Flames podcast. So is Doc Rivers overrated? We're going to dive into that, but before we do, please check out the website, www.swissflames.com. Hit us up on Twitter at Swiss Flames, and definitely check out the Facebook and YouTube page at Swiss Flames Podcast. We just want to continue just to send it. Thanks. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Channel is growing. We definitely appreciate your support. So we're going to get into this. Is Doc Rivers overrated? Now, I'm going to give my opinion on this, but let me, before I do that, let me kind of tell you guys why all of a sudden this is coming to mind. So a couple of days ago, and I wish I remember where I saw it so I could have linked you guys to it, but nevertheless, I was just kind of scanning social media, and I saw a meme. Basically, the meme was talking about Paul George and Ben Simmons. Basically, it was just basically describing what do Paul George and Ben Simmons have in common, and basically they were coached by Doc Rivers. And so if you look at the last two NBA seasons, if you look at the players who had the biggest meltdown, quote unquote, in the playoffs, last year was Paul George. This past playoffs that just happened was Ben Simmons, and they both were coached by Doc Rivers. So it just got me thinking a little bit about Doc. And do I think Doc is a horrible coach? No. I don't think Doc Rivers at all is a horrible coach. But I do believe he's overrated. And I do believe that Doc Rivers has gotten a lot of passes over the years because of his early success. And I think that's kind of tainted how high of a level we put Doc when it comes on to the upper echelon of coaches. Now, let's not forget, at one point, people were putting Doc on the same level as Greg Popovich when Popovich was in his prime, winning a lot of games with those San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan. You know, there was definitely times during that period where people were considering Doc up there with Pop. So I do not think that's the case now, but I do believe a lot of people consider Doc Rivers one of the best coaches in the league. And a great indication of how you're viewed around the league is once you're out of a job, how quickly do you get another one? Doc Rivers spent a lot of years with the Clippers, and as soon as he gets fired from the Clippers, the Philadelphia job gets offered to him. And so around the league, he's still well respected. You know what I mean? And so, once again, this is not me saying that Doc Rivers is a bad coach. This is just me saying he's overrated. This is why I believe so. When you start looking at it, we know Doc, let's just get the elephant out the room. We know Doc has won a championship with the Boston Celtics. He went to 2 finals back-to-back. He won one, he lost one. So he's a championship coach. So when he became a championship coach earlier on in his coaching career, obviously that can catapult you as far as how you viewed around the league. But if we really look at what he's done since, he hasn't gotten to any more championships since. Right? So that's a big deal. He's had some great teams with some great talent. Let's think about the Clippers even before they got Kawhi and Paul George. You had a CP3 Clippers with Blake Griffin. There was a couple of years in that tenor that they really were contenders. That team underachieved. We know in the beginning, Doc started in the early 2000s. I believe he started in 2000. So Doc's been coaching for over 20 plus years. He started out in Orlando. Went to Boston, Clippers, and now the Sixers. Over the course of his career, I checked this out. Over the course of his career, Doc Rivers has about, if we round it up, it's about 58.5. So we can round it up. He has a 59% winning percentage in the regular season. That's okay. That's above average, but that's okay. It's not great. If you wanted to say it's the lower tier of good, you could say that if you want to. You know what I'm saying? But it's not overwhelmingly like, oh yes. You know what I mean? So, if you look at also now, if you look at the playoffs, he's just over 500 in the playoffs. That is crazy when you think about it. He's only won a few more games more than he lost in the playoffs. So he's a slightly above 500 coach in the playoffs. And so, how in the world is a guy, don't get me wrong, he's not a losing percentage coach, but how is a guy who has been coaching as long as Doc, barely over 500 in winning percentage in playoffs, and still well sought after as a coach? Here's a great example of when you build up a brand and you build up a name, and sometimes your name opens the doors more than what you're actually doing as far as performance. So Doc Rivers has built up a stature, and once again, that title, being a championship coach, helps, because you always could kind of fall back in the interviews, definitely won a championship, and people know you got that on your resume, and that can't be taken from you because not every coach has done that. And so that already puts you in an elite group. So we get all that. But really, Doc has branded himself in a way by name and reputation. We know that he usually does really good with player relations. He has branded himself, and I think that has carried him a lot when it comes to how he's viewed in the league as a head coach. There's another stain on his record that we have to really look at and put in consideration. Doc is the only coach in the NBA that has blown 3 times a 3-1 lead in the playoffs. That is huge. And that's a huge stain on the record. You blew a 3-1 lead 3 times. That's tough to deal with. That's part of the reason why he got fired from the Clippers. Another thing too, if you watch Doc, a lot of times you look at these adjustments. He doesn't do a lot of adjustments. When you watch the Clippers series the season before, that was one of the complaints. It just looked like they didn't do any adjustments. Even this past season with the Sixers, it kind of looked the same. The adjustments doesn't look plentiful. Doc looks like the kind of coach that goes out of his way. He wants to trust his players, and he kind of sticks to his guns that way. And at times, I believe that has been detrimental to the teams he's coached. And so my opinion, yes, I totally believe Doc is overrated. I think he's a decent coach. I think at times he's a good coach. But I don't think he's a great coach. And I think these numbers are kind of pointing to the direction of co-signing what I'm saying. Nevertheless, what do you think? Do you think Doc Rivers is an overrated coach? Hit up the comments, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Definitely appreciate the support. It's your boy King Cal 516 signing off. This has been the Switch Flame Podcast, y'all.